Sure, here's a short story based on the title they called Earthlings Cute. Until one lifted a tank in the classic HFY, humanity. Yeah. Style. They called Earthlings cute. Until one lifted a tank. The first time the Galactic Union met humans, the consensus was nearly unanimous: adorable. Small, soft-skinned, awkwardly bipedal, with disproportionately large eyes and expressive faces. Compared to the towering Threxians or the crystalline elegance of the Zaltu, humans seemed underwhelming. A diplomatic expedition was dispatched to Earth. The mission logs would later be preserved in the Galactic Archives under Re-evaluation of Species 341, Homo sapiens. Captain TRXX of the Threxian Dominion, 8 feet of chitinous muscle and bristling weapons, was unimpressed when they landed near a human military base. They seem fragile, he noted, watching 2 human soldiers sparring in what they called a gym. They laughed, sweating and panting, bare arms covered in odd markings called tattoos. Their bodies were corded with muscle, but nothing TRXX considered serious. He dismissed them as ornamental. When the humans offered a demonstration of strength, TRXX agreed, mostly for amusement. They led the aliens to an open field where a massive Terran war machine, a decommissioned M1 Abrams tank, sat idle. "This is old tech," said Sergeant Alvarez, grinning, "but it'll do." TRXX chittered with amusement. "You wish to demonstrate your strength with a vehicle?" Alvarez shook her head. "Nah, he will." She gestured toward Private Eli Morgan, a wiry man barely taller than her shoulder, with a friendly smile and an unimpressive physique. TRXX leaned toward his lieutenant. "It is a jest." It wasn't. Eli took a breath, stretched his arms, and, without assistance, without machinery, grabbed the side of the 60-ton tank, braced his legs, and with a shout, lifted it. Not high, maybe a few inches, but it was enough. Dust exploded beneath his boots. Metal groaned. The tank rose. TRXX's internal translator failed for 0.7 seconds due to the chorus of untranslatable alien shock noises from the delegation. When Eli dropped the tank with a thud, the ground trembled. He casually rolled his shoulders. "Bit heavier than I remembered," he said. "You guys got anything bigger?" TRXX stared. "How?" Alvarez clapped Eli on the back. "Human adrenaline. Crazy stuff. Kicks in during stress. You should see what he does when he's mad." That evening, the Galactic Union updated the threat assessment for humans. From low risk/diplomatically valuable to extreme risk/approach with caution, do not call cute. Want a sequel or a different tone? Humorous, epic, horror-tinged? Hell yeah, let's keep going. Part 3, Phase 1. Earth Command didn't waste time. Once the data from Briggs' bloodwork came in, scientists got to work. Turns out, whatever the Vocari called toxin was actually a complex cocktail of bioorganic compounds. To humans, it was less like poison and more like fertilizer. Dr. Ayanna Kessler, lead xenobiologist, was the first to say it aloud. They didn't poison Briggs, they upgraded him. Mason became the prototype. The Vocari formula, modified and stabilized, was administered under strict supervision. Volunteers were screened. Out of 200 candidates, 163 not only survived, but transcended. They were faster, stronger, smarter, pain-resistant. Their cells regenerated faster, reflexes doubled, muscles rewired for efficiency. They weren't just soldiers anymore. They were Phase 1 operatives. Operation Payback. The Vocari didn't expect a counterattack so soon. When the first Earth fleet appeared in orbit over Vocari mining world Karsith 8, the defenders laughed. Humans didn't have the firepower to take the planet. They didn't need it. They had Briggs and 20 Phase 1s. The drop pods landed like meteor strikes. The Vocari scrambled their defense units, but it was already over. Briggs tore through a walker mech with his bare hands. Operative Liao caught a plasma round, threw it back. Sergeant Vega used her enhanced neurofocus to hack a defense grid mid-combat. In 7 hours, the planet surrendered. The Vocari Supreme Strategist sent a message to the Council. We are not fighting humans, we are fighting evolution itself. On Earth, Commander Voss stood before the UN Assembly. We didn't ask for war, she said, voice calm, but we will end it. The Vocari wanted to use poison to break us. Instead, they gave us the means to rise. We are no longer the underdogs. She looked out over the crowd. We are the future. Want to see Phase 2? Or maybe a twist, like the Vocari trying to create their own super soldiers to match humanity? Absolutely, let's crank it up. Part 4, Phase 2. The Vocari were desperate. They had ruled unchallenged for centuries. Now, planets were falling like dominoes. The humans, smaller, younger, and technologically behind, were adapting faster than any species they'd ever encountered. And worst of all? They weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to survive, and survival made humans relentless. In a hidden facility orbiting the black star of Othraxnol, Vocari scientists began their darkest project yet, Project Dreadform. Using DNA fragments from fallen Phase 1 soldiers, they sought to reverse engineer the human mutation. The result? Grotesque, powerful, unstable. The Dreadforms were born from gene-spliced Vocari with synthetic human biochemistry, towering abominations of muscle, metal, and rage. But they lacked one thing: control. Meanwhile, aboard the ESS Nemesis, mobile base of Phase Command, ***, Briggs and Dr. Kessler stood in the observation deck, watching footage of the first Dreadform encounter. 2 Phase 1s had been ripped apart in seconds before Operative Vega took the creature down with a thermal spike through the skull. They're trying to copy us, Mason muttered, but they missed the point. Kessler nodded. They replicated our strength, not our spirit. Commander Voss entered. Face grim. We need to accelerate development. Phase 1 was survival. Phase 2 is dominance. Phase 2 protocols activated. The next wave of human operatives wasn't just stronger, they were smarter. Integrated with neural sync systems and adaptive AI support, real-time combat learning, instant communication, telemetry-enhanced reflexes. They didn't just fight harder. They fought like one mind, one mission. And they were coming. Final scene, the Vocari homeworld. Alarms blared across the crimson skies of Vocaria Prime. For the first time in 1,000 years, they weren't on the offensive. They were fortifying. And in orbit, the humans waited. Phase 2 operatives stood in rows, silent, ready. Briggs looked at the planet below. You gave us poison, he said. We turned it into power. He slammed his fist into the launch console. Now taste your own medicine. Want to see the invasion of Vocaria Prime? Or maybe a deeper look into a Dreadform that goes rogue and questions its existence? Oh, hell yes, time for the invasion. Part 5, The Fall of Vocaria Prime. The assault began at 0400 Standard Galactic Time. Not with a barrage of orbital weapons, not with fleets of bombers, but with silence. A blackout ripple swept across Vocaria Prime, communications, sensors, satellites, all dead. The Vocari scrambled to respond, but their systems had already been infected. A silent virus, uploaded through a relay weeks ago by Operative Vega during a failed raid. It was never about that outpost. It was always about this moment. Planetfall. The drop pods hit the surface like thunderbolts. Phase 2 soldiers emerged, armor like obsidian, eyes lit with adaptive HUD glow, moving in perfect sync. Briggs led the first wave. He didn't even draw a weapon, his body was the weapon. He crashed into the Grand Citadel, ripping through reinforced walls, tossing defenders like rag dolls. Behind him, Phase 2 squads dismantled entire battalions with coordinated efficiency. Vokari defenders were brave, trained, armed. It didn't matter. They were fighting ghosts. Meanwhile, deep beneath the capital, Dreadform 9X, nicknamed Core, watched the battle unfold through neural link feeds. He was different. He remembered pain, screams, flashes of being someone before this twisted body. A human voice echoed in his head, "You're not a monster. Not unless you choose to be." That voice, Vega? Core ripped free from his control cradle. He'd seen enough. He wasn't going to be their weapon anymore. Above the planet, ESS Nemesis. Dr. Kessler stared at the telemetry. One of the Dreadforms just broke containment. She whispered, "He's not attacking us." Commander Voss narrowed her eyes. "Track him. If he's thinking for himself, we need to know why." Final battle, the Citadel Heart. Briggs stood before the Vokari High Chancellor, bloodied and breathing like a storm. "You had a choice," he growled. "You were inferior," the Chancellor spat. "We tried to cleanse you before you became a threat." Briggs grabbed him by the collar. "And now?" The Chancellor looked around, his palace in ruins, his people defeated. "You've already won." Briggs leaned in close. "No, we've just begun." Cliffhanger, Core's choice. Core stood in the ruins of a Vokari lab, surrounded by broken canisters. Each one held another Dreadform, still dormant. He reached for the control panel. His claws hovered over one button, "Awaken." His glowing eyes narrowed. "Time to decide what kind of monster I am. You want to continue into the aftermath? Human occupation? Core's arc? Rebellion within Vokari ranks? This story's just getting warm. All right, buckle up, this is where it really gets interesting." Part 6, Monsters and Men. 6 days after the fall of Vokaria Prime. The world was quiet. For the first time in generations, the Vokari Empire was silent. No broadcasts, no threats, just smoke and the hum of rebuilding machines. Earth's flag was planted in the Citadel Square, not as conquerors, but as a message, "Don't start wars you're not ready to finish." Briggs stood before a sea of Phase 2s. He wasn't wearing his armor, just fatigues, just human. "They called us weak," he said. "They tried to poison us, enslave us, break us." He looked to the Vokari survivors being cared for in aid tents nearby. "But we don't destroy for fun, we're not them. We end threats, we don't become them." The soldiers nodded. That was the line. And humanity wasn't going to cross it. Meanwhile, Dreadform Core. The chamber hissed with pressure as Core released a single Dreadform, Unit 17E, codenamed Silence. A lean, feral shape emerged, eyes glowing like twin stars. She looked at Core. "You brought me back," she rasped. "Why?" "Because I need to know," Core said, voice low and gravelly. "If we're more than what they made us." She tilted her head. "You don't want revenge?" "I want a reason." Underground resistance, the Ash Cell. Not all Vokari accepted defeat. In the wastelands of the northern continent, remnants of the elite caste had gone dark, forming a guerrilla faction known as the Ash Cell. They weren't trying to restore the Empire. They were trying to kill everything: humans, traitors, Dreadforms, even other Vokari who sided with peace. When Briggs' patrol uncovered their first stronghold, it was laced with human tech, reverse-engineered weapons, anti-phase protocols, and something else. A signal. Not Vokari. Not human. Not Dreadform. Something older, watching, waiting. Back aboard ESS Nemesis. Dr. Kessler ran diagnostics again. The same anomaly kept showing up in their long-range scans. An artificial structure buried deep beneath Vokaria Prime. Organic. Massive. Ancient. "Commander," she said, pale, "we may have just tripped a much bigger wire." Commander Voss looked out the window, the planet below glowing in twilight. "Send a team." Final scene, a new threat. Deep beneath the planet's crust, under black stone and molten veins, a single massive eye opened. Not human. Not Vokari. Not bound by time. It had slept through empires, watched through stars. And now it hungered. You want the next part to dive into this ancient threat? Or keep following Core and the Dreadforms navigating identity and morality? Let's go deeper. Ancient Threat Unlocked. Part 7, The Sleeping God. Location, Subterranean Vault, Vocaria Prime. Designation, Site 0. The team sent to investigate included the best. Operative Vega, Phase 2 Scout. Enhanced Reflex Package. Dr. Kessler, Mission Scientist. First to identify the anomaly. Core, Dreadform. Now a wildcard ally. Unit Silence, Unpredictable. Deadly. Leashed only by Core's presence. They descended through miles of ancient tunnels, older than any Vocari structure. The walls pulsed faintly, like veins under skin, and at the heart of it, a monolithic shape pulsed with unnatural rhythm. The vault. A biomechanical construct. Half organic, half machine, all wrong. Dr. Kessler knelt, running her scanner over the symbols. This isn't Vocari, she whispered. This predates them by tens of thousands of years. Vega moved forward. What's it doing? Core cocked his head, waking up. Inside the vault. The walls opened like muscle under pressure. And it spoke. Not in words. In thoughts. Visions flooded the team's minds, entire civilizations erased in moments. Galaxies consumed. Stars extinguished like candles. It had many names, across many timelines. To the Vocari, the Hollow One. To ancient humans, the Black Root. To itself? It had no name. It was the end. Meanwhile, surface level, Ash Cell Compound. The Ash Cell wasn't trying to rebuild the Vocari Empire. They were trying to summon the Hollow One, feed it, bargain with it, thinking they could trade humanity's extinction for their own survival. They didn't understand. You don't bargain with extinction. You just delay it. Back at Site 0. The vault pulsed once more. A psychic scream knocked Vega to her knees. Silence snarled, but Core didn't flinch. He walked forward. What do you want? He asked. The voice answered in a whisper that shook bones. To finish what you began. Core looked back at the team. Dr. Kessler's eyes were wide. You don't think the Vocari found the toxin on Ixler 4. You think they tapped into it. Core finished. The poison, the mutation, the awakening. It wasn't evolution. It was a test. Final lines. Briggs stood on the surface, watching the horizon boil with thunderclouds. The air changed. A deep vibration passed through the ground. He looked at the sky. Whatever that was, it's not over. The war was never between humans and Vocari. That was just round 1. Next chapter, want to see the first real confrontation with the Hollow One? Or follow a splinter team trying to shut down Ash Cell before they trigger a full awakening? Hell yes, let's descend into the chaos. Part 8, Ashes and Awakening. Location, Ash Cell Fortress, Sector Duskfall. Vocaria Prime's Equatorial Wastes. Commander Voss watched the drone feed in silence. The Ash Cell wasn't hiding anymore. They'd turned the ruins of an old Vocari energy forge into a full-blown ritual site, if you could call a mix of corrupted tech, blood rites, and biomechanical screaming pillars a ritual. Worse, it was working. A rift had formed above the site, jagged, black, leaking tendrils of something that shimmered like oil but moved like thought. Dr. Kessler's voice came through comms. That's not just a portal, it's a vein, a link to the Hollow One's body, buried in the crust. Voss didn't hesitate. Send the squad. Strike Team Echo 4, Deep Drop. Briggs, leading the charge. Operative Liao, Tech Disruptor. Phase 2. Unit Silence, let off the leash. Specialist Tarek, Explosive and Psychic Interference Expert. Guest Operator, Core, Dreadform. Rogue Ally. The team hit dirt like lightning. Ash Cell cultists poured out of every structure, chanting, mutated, barely recognizable as Vocari anymore. Liao launched an EMP burst, frying their twisted gear. Silence waded through the fray, claws flashing like lightning. Tarek laid charges in a spiral pattern, trying to disrupt the ritual geometry. Briggs sprinted through chaos toward the main chamber, where the Ash Cell leader, a once high-ranking Vocari tactician named Murnak, stood before a pulsing spire of living crystal. Murnak was glowing. And laughing. You think this is war, human? He howled. This is rebirth. We will rise as gods, like the Hollow One. Briggs didn't speak. He tossed a charge into the spire. Then he punched Murnak so hard the ground cracked. Underground, Site Zero's vault. Simultaneously, Kessler and Vega stood before the vault as alarms blared. Something's changing, Vega said, drawing her weapon. The vault was responding to the attack on the ash cell. Not weakening. Waking up faster. Kessler's console lit up with a final message. Warning, host system aware. Protocol, ascent imminent. She looked up. Oh God. Above ground, the rift breaks. Even as the ash cell fortress collapsed, Briggs' team retreated to the evac shuttle, but behind them, the sky split. Not a portal. A mouth. And from it came a single shard. Tall, thin, a humanoid figure made of black glass and bone. Eyes like inverted stars. It didn't walk. It drifted. Silence growled. That's not one of yours. Core stood frozen. No, he whispered. That's one of its. Final scene, Earth Command briefing room. Voss stared at the report. Kessler's voice rang through the silence. We didn't evolve past the poison. We adapted because it wanted us to. Humanity wasn't the weapon. We're the key. Voss leaned back in her chair, exhaling slow. Then the lock just turned. You ready for the next? Humanity versus the Hollow One's emissaries? A deeper reveal of what the toxin really is? Or a full-on holy crap twist where Earth might already be compromised? Let's kick the door wide open, time to bring the terror home. Part 9, The Signal Beneath Our Feet. Location, Earth, Black Site Theta. Arctic Circle. 6 months after the fall of Vocaria Prime, the world celebrated peace accords, technological leaps, unity under Earth command. But peace doesn't hum. Peace doesn't whisper. And peace doesn't bleed. In the dead of winter, at Black Site Theta, a defunct deep core research base, an automated distress signal pinged Earth command. One word. Awakened. Team sent to investigate. Operative Vega, tactical lead. Dr. Kessler reluctantly pulled back in. Phase 2 twins Rafe and Danny Navarro, close quarters recon. Core, against orders. Silence, missing. Presumed rogue. They expected a ghost station. What they found was a nest. Inside Black Site Theta. The walls were pulsing. Not from heat. From life. Something had grown down there, spores like obsidian coral, crawling through metal. Kessler scraped one for analysis. It's the same biosignal as the vault, she whispered. Rafe turned a corner and nearly got shredded by a thing that used to be a researcher, now a tangle of limbs and screaming mouths. The Hollow One wasn't sending emissaries anymore. It was already here. Back on Earth Command. Commander Voss slammed her fist on the briefing table. How long? Dr. Kessler's voice came through shaky. Based on the spread rate? Months, maybe less. It's not just a single infestation. It's awakening nodes, seeds. Someone whispered. We brought it back from Vocaria. No, Kessler corrected. We woke up what was already here. Flashback, Ixler 4. The toxin the Vocari found? The one that mutated Briggs? It didn't come from their labs. It came from a relic world, classified by Earth as unsuitable for colonization. Why? Because it killed everything that set foot on it. Unless you were human. Back at Theta Base. Vega's team made it to the core. There, in the frozen dark, a massive structure pulsed, half buried in ice. The same kind of living machine that birthed the vault on Vocaria. It wasn't built. It grew. Core stared at it, unmoving. Rafe whispered, why isn't it attacking us? Core answered, cold and certain. Because it's waiting for us to realize we're not the invaders. Final moments, the Hollow One speaks again. Not through sound. Not through screams. Through dreams. Across Earth, billions of humans woke in the night, hearts pounding, breath short, eyes wide with one memory they hadn't lived. A vast darkness. A single eye. And a voice in every mind. Welcome home. You want to follow up with Earth's descent into paranoia? A global psychic infection? Or maybe go full resistance mode, with Briggs forming an underground faction to fight what's taking over from the inside? Let's tear the veil off, humanity's about to learn the horrifying truth. Part 10, We Were Never Alone. Location, Earth, Global Command Bunker, Geneva. The planet was quiet. Too quiet. Since the mass dream event, now referred to as the Whisper Night, humans had started changing. Not visibly, not at first. But behavior patterns shifted, synchronized, coordinated. Cities fell into eerie calm. No riots, no protests. Just compliance. Commander Voss stood over a holomap. Red clusters blooming across the globe. This isn't invasion, she said, it's assimilation. Kessler, pale and trembling, showed the data. The hollow one doesn't just consume, it converts. And the toxin? It wasn't designed to kill us. She tapped the final screen. It was made for us. Flashback, 90 years ago, Ixtler 4 Deep Survey Team. A crew of scientists, long buried by redacted files, touched something in the soil. Not a weapon. A root. It scanned them, seeded them, set the chain in motion. And over generations, it bloomed inside us. The Vocari hadn't tried to poison Briggs. They tried to stop the spread. They were the firewall. Humanity? We were the payload. Resistance rises, Operation Eclipse. Briggs had gone underground, literally. In the ruins of old Luna Base, he formed Eclipse, a Black Ops resistance of unconverted humans, rogue dreadforms, and defected Phase 2s. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to wake people up. Phase weapons didn't work anymore. The infected adapted. So they turned to the old ways. Ballistics, fire, EMPs. And one secret Kessler had kept hidden. Patient Zero. The return of silence. She'd disappeared after the Ash Cell raid, but now she returned, scarred, trembling, and carrying the coordinates of a place not on any Earth map. The origin node, buried deep beneath the Pacific, a black structure older than the planet itself. You want to stop this? She rasped. You burn the root. But Core stepped forward, silent and grim. If we do that, we might not survive it. Briggs looked him dead in the eye. Then we make sure the rest of the world does. Final scene, across Earth. In the cities, the converted paused mid-step, looked up, as if something had taken notice. And in orbit, far beyond the moon, something stirred. Not the hollow one. Something worse. Something waiting to see if the infection took hold. A backup plan. A watcher. The last words of the Whisper Night echoed once again in every mind. You are the vessel. Let us in. Next chapter, full-on war for Earth's soul? Eclipse's assault on the origin node? Or a race against time as the infection reaches critical mass? You tell me, this story's gone cosmic. Let's punch through the sky, this is the final descent. Part 11, The Heart of the Hollow. Location, Pacific Abyss, entry point, origin node. A fleet of Eclipse subs breached the deepest trench on Earth, descending beyond crushed depth, protected only by cobbled-together alien tech and raw human stubbornness. Briggs, Core, Silence, DR, Kessler, and a final strike team prepped to enter what lay beneath the ocean floor. A living structure, miles wide. Organic metal, shifting corridors, pulsing walls that breathed in sync with human heartbeats. This was the root system, the first seed of the Hollow One planted on Earth millennia ago. Inside the node, the deeper they went, the more wrong it felt. Time slowed, gravity flexed, Kessler's instruments blinked out. But one thing remained constant. The whispers. Familiar voices, loved ones, childhood memories. The system was fighting them psychologically. It didn't need to kill them. It needed them to surrender. Meanwhile, Earth's sky burns. Above, Earth command collapsed. Entire cities turned into silence, not through destruction, but synchronization. Humanity wasn't dying. It was merging. One mind, one will, a planet-spanning neural web blooming like a black flower. And at its center? A beacon. Calling to something outside the solar system. Final assault, the core chamber. Briggs and the team reached the core. A singularity of black light pulsed above a spire, a brain made of root flesh and crystal. Around it floated human forms, dead bodies, perfectly preserved, connected by tendrils. Kessler gasped. They're not corpses, they're templates. We weren't made for this thing. It was made for us. The toxin wasn't an infection. It was a blueprint. Cores stand. As the team prepared to detonate the fusion core, the Hollow One spoke again, this time, through silence. She turned, eyes glowing like stars, her voice layered with echoes. You could have been gods. You could have lasted. Why choose pain? Core stepped forward. Because deep inside, despite everything done to him, everything he'd become, he remembered one thing. Choice. He reached out. Took her hand. Whispered, because that's what makes us human. And he pulled the detonator. Flash of light, collapse of thought. Epilogue, 1 year later. The Earth was alive. Damaged, changed, but free. The network collapsed, the whispers gone. Eclipse disbanded. Briggs disappeared. Silence was never seen again. But in a black box recovered from the ruins of the origin node, a message played. If you're hearing this, we won, but something else is coming, something worse. And this time, it won't be through whispers. It'll be through the stars. Briggs. End of Book 1, The Hollow War. Want to roll into Book 2? Galactic response to Earth's immunity? Forgotten gods waking up in other systems? A reformed Eclipse crew chasing the Hollow One into deep space? Let's go. Let's launch into the void. Book 2 begins. Book 2, Children of the Hollow. Part 1, Echoes Among the Stars. Location, Deep Space, Vessel Valkyrie's Wake. 2, 5 light-years beyond Sol. They said the Hollow One was dead. They were wrong. A year after the detonation at the origin node, Earth began picking up ghost signals, faint pulses from deep space, all carrying the same encrypted pattern. 011001110111011001100. Translation, God. But Earth Command had collapsed. Nations were rebuilding. The scars from the Hollow One's touch hadn't healed. Only one group was still watching the stars. Eclipse. Meet the new crew. Captain Reza Hale, X-Phase 2. Charisma with a kill switch. Anya Briggs, daughter of the Briggs. Cyber-psychic prodigy. Dr. Kessler, retired, now a reluctant AI construct bound to the ship. Juno, weaponized Hollow One fragment with a sense of humor. Mirren, last Vocari seer, now a stowaway. They weren't looking to start another war. They were looking for a signal. And they found one. Signal origin, System HX7R, Dead Zone. The Valkyrie's Wake dropped out of FTL above a world that shouldn't have existed. It was called Hollow's Reach. A rogue planet, no sun, no light, but covered in towers, each shaped like those once buried on Earth. Inside? People. Humans. Speaking Earth dialects, but born here. Thousands of them. Anya scanned one with trembling hands. No implants, no tech, no Earth history. Reza looked at her. Then how? Mirren stepped forward. Because they were born from it. The revelation. These weren't survivors. They were descendants. Created from the Hollow One's backup seed protocols, a new branch of humanity. But different. Connected. Still networked. And waiting for instructions. Final scene, the sky cracks. As Eclipse explores Hollow's Reach, the stars flicker. And something ancient answers the dormant seedworld's call. Not the Hollow One. Something worse. The architects. The ones who planted the Hollow in the first place. And now they've noticed Earth, fought back. Final words. One root was cut. But the tree? The tree spans galaxies. Juno. Want to follow the crew into the architect war? Reveal what Briggs really saw before the detonation? Or dive into Anya's strange bond with the children of Hollow's Reach? Let's dig deeper. This is just the beginning.